Reflective thinking turns experience into insight. Deflective thinking turns dusk into darkness. Welcome back, or welcome to another edition of The Sales Life. And before we move forward, like we always do, let's quickly bounce back and recap yesterday's episode. And yesterday's episode was playing to an image. And you have to think of, you're playing to an image in your mind of what success looks like for you. And so it's kind of like this. If you talk to someone on the phone and you've never met them before, what's up, Kenny? And so you're talking to them on the phone, you've never met them before. Your mind immediately builds an image of what that person looks like. Only to come to find out when you meet that person, they look nothing like what you imagined. You're like, wait a minute. But see, in my mind, when I talk to them on the phone, I constructed everything. It seems so vivid, so real. Down to their race, down to their weight, their height, what they look like. And then when I get to see them, man, it's like, whoa, where's the real person at? That's exactly what your mind is doing for you. And so your mind is, you're playing to an image, though you may not realize it. You're playing to an image that you may or may not like. And so yesterday's episode was taking stock in that image. And so if you don't like your current circumstance, or if you don't like your current situation or where you're heading, then you got to change that image. And it takes, bro, let me tell you something. Well, that is one of the hardest things that's been for me, is to change the millions of distorted images from my past and to change those things out into a beautiful present and future. So it's going to take some work. And I urge you to go back and do the work. Listen to the episode and then start doing the work. We talk about that. Now, on to today's episode, 502. I don't think they make a pair of jeans. They make the 501s. I don't think they make 502s. I do think they make 505s though. So when we get to that, we'll talk about the jeans again. But part of changing your image, this is what we're going to talk about today, is it's going to take some reflection on your part. And John Maxwell writes, he said, reflective thinking turns experience into insight. Reflective thinking turns experience into insight. So let's break that whole thought down. If take a bike, it's got reflectors on it. And so the reflectors never really stand out until it starts to get dark, right? And by the way, has anybody tried to buy a bike lately? I mean, dude, I thought it was just going to be easy. I could go into the store, buy a bike, because I've been wanting a cruiser. And so they're nowhere. I mean, Academy, Walmart, Target, like the shelves are empty. Everybody's bike riding. I thought I could just walk in the store and buy one. And come to find out, man, it's pouring down rain recently. I walk into a store, to a Schwinn store. I was trying to buy a Huffy, man. So I go into a Schwinn store and there's a cruiser on the floor. So, and it's like, $400 or $500. I was trying to spend $100. So make a long story short, I ended up buying the bike. So I bought the bike, even though the guy said, sir, you're a big dude. This bike is one size fits all, fits most. You ain't most. So anyway, I buy the bike, and as I already swiped the card, then the guy tells me, yeah, man, I put that bike together myself a year ago. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? So come to find out, the bike is so ugly that nobody else wanted it. So it's been sitting on the showroom floor for a year. So I guess they rang the bell once I rolled out the door. But I got my bike, man. I wish I could show it to you. It's on the other side of this camera right here. I'm gonna take a picture and I'm gonna post it on the Sales Light Facebook group, man, so you can see my ugly bike. I love my cruiser. But anyway, so back to what we're talking about on reflection. And reflectors on a bike, man, they don't shine until it starts to get dark. And so if I'm driving down the road, and I come up on a bike as it starts to get dark, those reflectors shine light back. And they draw my attention. And so once I see that attention, then I can make the necessary adjustments. The dark or the dusk is your experience. And if you reflect on that experience, it casts light and transforms it into insight. And what's insight? Insight, that reflected light, sheds light and it penetrates your feelings. See, insight is inner sight. And so when it starts to get dark with my experience, and if I reflect on it, that light shines back and goes past all the feelings and the raw emotions of the moment. And it gives me an inner sight. It gives me discernment, a sharper mental acuity, an awareness. So that way I can make the adjustments. Reflective thinking turns experience into insight. Deflective thinking turns dusk into darkness. How can there be light, man, if you've got no reflection? And see, you can't reflect if you've got no light. See, a bike with no reflection, a bike with no reflectors on it, it's going to get run over. And dude, you're getting run over in life, and you're getting run over in sales because you're deflecting instead of being reflective. See, you're deflecting by blaming others versus instead of blaming others, if you use reflective thinking, you can draw on the experience of others, from others, good or bad, and make that awareness, transform that awareness into an insight, and make the necessary adjustments in your life. So if I can reflect and shed light on those experiences, dude, I get to keep my power. And see, I can shed the light on the experience, and I can begin to ask myself with reflection, with the light shining back. I take the experience, I shine it back. I get that insight and say, what's next? What's my next move? How can I learn from this experience so that I don't make the same mistake again? How can I grow from this thing? See, if I have no light, I can't grow. The darkness is just the mold. That's where it grows, right? Damp, dark, mold. Light, bright, insight, growth. Instead of being quick to be so deflective and saying, it ain't my fault. Give some space to it, man. Put some space in between it and reflect and say, but it is my responsibility. Go back and listen to episode 500. When's the last time you've taken responsibility over everything in your life? See, when you're deflective, you're blaming. When you're reflective, you have your power. You maintain control over the situation. And you say, well, it's my responsibility. So what's my next move? All right, let's rock out with today's TSL action item. All right, what will you reflect on today? And number two, when you reflect on it, now that you're shedding light, what's your next power move? Not to get back at someone, but to get ahead and grow. Remember, never settle. Keep selling your way through life, no matter what. Stay in the sales life.